Hello, everybody. This is DC. This is my first sort of like live stream. See how things go here. All right. Talk about anything you want. There's nobody in here just yet. So maybe somebody will listen. So I'll just like sort of chat around a bunch of crap. Okay. Okay. You'll see that it's sort of bright over here because I am sort of like halfway outside and it's stinking hot in this friggin' room right here. So might see the sun back and forth. I'll be working on that. Like I said, this is my first one. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. Well, let's see. We could talk about metal, or we could talk about wrestling, or movies. I'm actually going to be on Tuesday's Terrors on the Grave Reviews YouTube channel. They've regained me my love for movies, horror movies in particular. They like to watch a movie and then dissect it, talk about it. I find myself in the chat every Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday nights, they just sort of do a movie that they pick. Last time they picked Train to Busan, which is a Korean movie. And it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Didn't know anything about train movies or anything. It's just like they give a suggestion, and whether you saw it or not, watch through it, try to make it through it, or do what you can do to remember it for that Thursday. I seem to watch it the day before, so then I can write down notes and stuff. But I'll be on there on Tuesday, probably around 7 o'clock. We'll be discussing Reanimator. The it's like 82 or 83, something like that. I could be wrong, and you could tell me in the chat if you want to. It's one of my favorite movies from when I was younger. Night of the Creeps has since overtaken it because I feel like that's a little bit more fun, even though Reanimator is super, super fun. I mean, you can't beat that movie. Black humor, one of the first ever sort of like gross out funny movies, but that was actually funny. That didn't just take it to the level of, oh, we're going to run this through the mud. Oh, there's some guts flying at you. No, they did it certain ways, which were, groundbreaking in the day. Anyway, some of the other things I found myself watching. I watched Netflix Malice in the Palace, which is a sports movie, sort of documentary, which is about the brawl between basically the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons fans. It was at the end of a game. The Pistons were getting their butts kicked, and some of the fans didn't take too kindly to Ron Artest, who decided to lay down on the bench and just say to hell with it. He got hit by some kind of flying beer cup, triggered massive brawl up into the stands between him and Jermaine O'Neal. There's a couple other people that were involved in that, but those two guys got the majority of it. And there were some suspensions and stuff, and it's quite neat because some people couldn't control themselves, and the game has changed since then. A lot of people don't take too quickly to fighting unless it's hockey. I mean, they still allow that. A lot of people still complain about that. Hey, what the hell? Hockey's been beating the shit out of each other for how many years now? What do you do about that? Nothing really. Until they decide that they want to take that out of hockey. It'll be before we're gone. Anything else on the docket here this evening for me to pretend that I know and want to talk about? Who knows? Metal. Let's do some metal. Okay? Metal equals, extreme, you got to let this stuff out. And metal helps you do that. You can't just live your life listening to Pink Floyd all the time. Now, I love Floyd. It's not a big deal. You can listen to Pink Floyd all the time. I mean, when are you going to let that aggression out? It's just building up inside of you. So get it done. Turn on some metal. There's been quite a bunch of changes since, I've been through many different phases, and changes have happened every 10 years or so, every 5 years or so. It all depends on which one, you're thinking of. I grew up listening to ACDC, Led Zeppelin, stuff that was on the classic rock radio. And I got my ACDC albums and stuff. Didn't care for Kiss. I liked ACDC more. But that's where I kind of broke in with. But one day, uh, this bass line was played on MTV. It was Megadeth. I wasn't big into Metallica. I liked some Metallica, like everybody else did, but I liked Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? That particular album, I think, is one of the epitomes for thrash, and it was just way better than anything that was coming out as a whole. I mean, Dave's vocals are, to be, taken with a grain of salt, I suppose, depending on if you like the nasally type stuff. But back then, it was way better than, to me, and a lot of people are going to get pissed off, but a lot better than like Joey Belladonna, who Anthrax had the thrash and had the mosh stuff that, everybody wanted to hear. But they also brought these like power metal vocals into Joey, which I wasn't a big fan of, but I liked Mustaine a little bit more. After Megadeth, that was a gateway for me. Within like 3 years, I was listening to Death at Pestilence in college because there were record albums that were sitting there in the radio station. I said, "What the hell is this?" It's pretty cool. And as I played music and read both of those albums, I didn't play those albums. I wasn't interested. I was piqued. I said, "What the hell are these things?" And I looked through Pestilence and I played it on the queue, listened to it in the studio, and I was like, "Yeah, that's okay. I don't get it." But then I put on Death and I listened to Death and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty good." And I read the entire Gatefold album where they thanked the Airport Music Hall here in Allentown. Well, I'm near Allentown. I'm in the Pocono Mountains, but when I was younger, I lived near to Allentown, and the Airport Music Hall was a place that we'd go to see bands. So seeing that they thanked that band led me to believe that Death would be coming around sometime soon. And they may have, but that time I didn't get to see too many shows. I guess I think I saw Creator, Biohazard, and Morgoth, which would be the first death metal band that I've ever seen was Morgoth, who were German. I believe they're a German death metal band. And they were pretty good. But it was a crossover thrash that was happening at that time. The first band I was in, we played a show with Ripping Corpse, which I'll always hold dear to my heart because people really want to see them play. And I got to see them play in the bottom, underneath some kind of like flower shop or something. Was called the Cafe La Rock in Pennsylvania here, just outside of Allentown. And man, they were amazing, really loud, really great. Just to be able to say that I saw, 20-something teens or 20-something Eric Rutan, playing guitar. Not to mention the rest of them. Brandon Thomas, their drummer, set a standard for me that I saw him play and said, "Oh, I just go through the motions. You got to do other stuff too," because he just blew me away that night. But after that, death metal is, been my favorite ever since then. I listened to Napalm Death, and I listened to that and said, "What in the shit is that? That's absolute noise. I can't believe it." But within the month, I had smoked enough pot to fucking understand Napalm Death and love them more than anything else in the world. So at least those albums up until Mentally Murdered, I can listen to. Harmony Corruption a little bit. But anything without Mick Harris, I tend to steer away from. And after Napalm Death, I started to get into more death metal because grindcore seemed to go more into the noise type area. I mean, by the time 2000s came around, they weren't doing the I call the method grind that Carcass, Terrorizer, and Napalm Death were doing, which were like 1, 2, 3, 4 blast, 1, 2, 3, 4 blast, that kind of stuff. But the Dillinger Escape Plan came out and just went all crazy with riffs and blasts and jazz structures, and I think they pushed everybody into that progressive zone where everybody's like, "Oh, I'm going to be this technical, highly technical." Where I feel more in tune with songwriting than I do like musicianship. Musicians are just playing for other musicians to hear, so you have to really be in tune with you have to be a note nerd or get out there and write down your write down all the format. But that's metal, and I played metal. As you can see behind me, see all the amplifiers. I got drums right behind me too. Played in many bands, and I enjoy it. Enjoy playing it, and I'm in my 50s, and I wind up playing this for the rest of my life. I believe so because I enjoy it. I enjoy it very much. Death metal. So I believe we can continue on speaking about metal. There were other sort of changes in metal around the 2000s. From the 90s, we had death metal, and the bulk of the first wave of death metal came out from like 89 until like 96. There was some good stuff that came out around the 2000s for death metal, like Nile, and bands like into the 2000s like Devourment, deathcore started coming into play. The really really fast stuff. But there's other things that came in. Stoner metal became a big thing. Clutch started off as a hardcore band and then changed into like a twangy, floaty kind of band. And they ushered in, the era of stoner metal bands like, COC. I mean, they've been around for a while and they played hardcore and they played rock and stuff, but everybody started to turn it up about this time. Bongzilla, awesome bands. But, around the 2000s, those bands really started to kick it up. Hardcore music. Hardcore music is like if you ask me, it's like the bloodline of metal. They, metal is metal, but I think everybody likes hardcore. I think you do. You like those breakdowns. You like those fast beats and tempos, the Slayer beats. And then they get to throw in stuff like, punk bands used to play. You can go off into, the D beat realm, which is, stuff like the Exploited played, but all the time. So the thing is with metal, it's all progressed and branched out. It's branched out over time, and there's something for you. So don't be afraid to get crazy, let out your aggressions. Do it in your car. Turn that shit up. Do it before work. Do it after work. You want to. You like it. And I don't mean fucking Nickelback. I don't. You guys can like other stuff. Branch out. Find something you really like. There's hundreds of thousands of bands out there for you to explore. They're at your fingertips too on the computer. You could do that. You could just hit any keys and something will come up and tell you it's a band. Just make sure it's metal, all right? Don't want to hear you listening to country music. Oh my God, that's horrible. Anyway, I hope that I'll be able to do this on a regular basis. Anybody wants to say hi, you can in chat. I'll try to do this on a regular basis. I'm just chatting about bullshit right now. It was in the 2000s, and around the 2000s, I was a DJ, and pretty much exposed most of the people in this area to bands like Mortician and Bongzilla, Scissor Fight, REO Speed Dealer. Bands that are classic. I mean, you might not even heard of them. You might not have. You never know. But check them out. I always would give you suggestions, and hopefully you take the ball and run with it and say, yeah, okay, that's cool. Works for me. Oh, wow, that was awesome. I really like that one. Back to hardcore music right now. Hardcore is in like this super powered era, or, hate to use the word era. Everybody's using the word era. Don't want to use it. Anyway, they're like super powered right now. Pardon me. Bands like Zabalba are down-tuned and use death and doom structures. A lot of the, hardcore purists don't like that, but they can listen to Sick of It All, or they can listen to, The Exploited. I like both of those bands too, but I like the really heavy stuff. Went to the 2015, it's a long time ago, almost 10 years ago, 2015. This is Hardcore Fest in Philadelphia, and heard this band. Like, what the fuck is that? Holy shit. I felt my stomach had dropped out. And it was Zabalba with an X. Check them out. They're from California. Probably one of the heaviest hardcore bands out there right now, but there are really super heavy bands too. Harm's Way, Cruelty. There's quite a lot of heavy down-tuned bands that utilized death metal. It's a big. The lines are blurred anymore. They're definitely blurred, and you get to pick and choose, especially now, because for me, being in my 50s, these guys are the kids, or the kids of the kids. It's fucked up to say that to me, that from me, because, if I had, started a family earlier in my life, it might be my grandkids playing this stuff right now. Because I know my son's a little late. I had him a little late in the game, and he's kicking ass on the drums right now. So it's just a matter of time, old fellas and old guard, before these guys take over. You've seen it happen. We can still play it. We all know we can. We have to give way to, some of the younger guys that are coming up. The new death metal crop is amazing. Whether you like it or not, whether it's, caveman riffs or freaking blazing, brutal, fast deathcore, you got to give them their props. If they're out there and they're on the stage and they're touring, they're doing it. They're living what they want to do. Bands like Frozen Soul, those guys, if you like Bull Thrower, listen to Frozen Soul. They're definitely a heavy Bull Thrower, Mortician vibe going on with those guys. And then you have stuff like the Obscene Extreme Festival, which hosts an array of, some death metal bands, but it's mostly grindcore, crust, the D beat, and sometimes punk stuff too. These people are incredible. You should look at it on YouTube. Obscene Extreme. It's the videos with the people that are in the mosh pit with the pool inflatables and the noodles, and they're dressed like Jesus or a banana, or wearing nothing at all, diving into the crowd with their nuts on top of your head. They have bands like Gutalax and Ahamedo Granujo, who play this fun, dancey, it's almost like polka sometimes, and everybody just loves it. They can't get off the stage. They can't stop running around in a big circle, and it looks amazing and fun as hell. And maybe one day I'll get to do that, or even just to go see it. I would love that. Anyway, that's about all I'd like to talk to about metal at this point. I mean, there's plenty of other different genres that have their place. Power metal is big. The Europeans love all sorts of, power metal and traditional heavy metal. Anybody who follows Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. We have black metal. Black metal has come of age since the early 90s, and a lot of people really like that, to the point where, in Norway, it's like part of their common culture. They're used to it. There's commercials about black metal guys in black metal paint doing their laundry. Not even kidding. So, black metal. It's about Satan, usually. But as of recently, some of the younger generation have sort of worked their way into it and utilized their chords and progressions and stuff. And some of the old people don't like that too much. They seem to think that they're like hipsters and stuff. But, music is music. To stop drawing lines, dividing lines. If you want to play 25 different freaking genres of music, just listen to Naked City. John Zorn, he'd put like as many as he possibly could into one song. But of course, they weren't commercially popular. You have to know exactly who they are to get them. But you can put anything you want to in it these days. And please do. Do whatever it is you want. Don't let any kind of jagoff tell you can't do it. Don't be afraid. It's your art. You make it. Or if you fight with other guys in your band over it, that's what happens. Work it out, figure it out, and then do it. Or figure it out a different way. There's also symphonic metal and folk metal. You ever seen the folk metal people? The people that wear the furry loincloths, and they play bassoons and oboes and giant folk horns. It's very interesting to watch. Very interesting to watch. But again, to each his own. You don't have to like any of it. But it is interesting. You should give it a couple seconds at least. Because who knows? You might. Or you might know somebody that does. You'd be like, oh, yeah, I heard of this band. They wear the furry loincloths. Did you ever see them? So, are there any other kind of ones you want to talk about? I'm not too sure. I think I'm going to end this here today. I'd like to thank all 0 people for entering the room. Might have been 1 or 2 people that came in here periodically. But I'll give it a go again some other time. All right. So give it up. Maybe next time we'll do horror movies or we'll do wrestling or something. All right. See you later.